The XK68 is dead. Long live the HFXC. After listening to our comments about the bad mount as well as the Wondering Zero for the XK68, SMS has been busy redesigning the XK68 into a whole new laser system, the HFXC. So far, so good. There's a lot of improvements that we'll go over today, as well as testing the Zero for the laser to see if it's any better. I just want to disclose that SMSLaser didn't pay me at all to take a look at this unit, but they did send me the unit for free. It is a prototype pre-production sample unit, so it's not like I'm getting a lot of valuable stuff, but I just want to put it out there. I did not pay for this unit at all. A few changes between the prototype unit and the final product that you'd be able to buy in a couple weeks or so. Obviously, there's going to be labels for the selector switch. The plus and minus are actually flipped. It's wrong on this. Really, the only thing that'll be missing from the production units of the HFXC is this magnetic charging port. Speaking of charging, the HF now uses a different battery type, the 18500, as opposed to the 18650 that the XK68 was using. Bad news, if you have a couple XK68s laying around, those batteries are not compatible with the new HF. On top of that, the XK68's batteries were name brand. You could buy them offline from various resellers and whatnot. I could not find any specification for the 1850 or 18500 that they are shipping, at least with the prototype unit that they sent me. I also want to mention that the brief testing that I did at night with the IR laser and illuminator used about half the battery, and we're talking about 25 minutes of testing total. This is a reduced capacity, 2000 milliamps, as opposed to the 2600 milliamps, I believe, for the XK68's battery. But it also has a lot more power, right? The new HF unit is a laser beam, and I'm not putting that lightly. It's a complete laser beam, for the IR laser as well as the visible laser. And the IR illuminator is, I believe, miles ahead of something like a Somo gear. Definitely do not be pointing this at people's eyes or other night vision devices, because there's a good chance that you'll probably burn it out. It makes sense, right? Smaller battery and a higher output equates a shorter battery life. If you're gonna have a long night of shooting, I would suggest bringing the included charger as well as a battery bank, and you should be fine. Going over this new body, I believe that it may have been a little rushed, and I'll give you a couple reasons why. Firstly, thanks SMSLaser for designing this for left-handed shooting. It's really comfortable as a left-handed shooter, since my thumb can just rest off the battery cover and hit the button. But for right-handers, if you have your left hand gripping it, it's not so bad or uncomfortable, but there's this corner that is right on your finger that could potentially scrape it and cut it. And I'm not sure why they didn't round that off, and it's actually angled to become more of a cut. It would have cost them nothing to round off that corner. Maybe they've just missed it. Also, for the new IR illumination adjuster on the side wheel, it's really tough to actually manipulate. I don't know if, I think it'd be a lot harder to do it with gloves. SMSLaser did say that they redesigned this for the production units and made it easier to adjust, but I can't really verify that. Better knurling would probably help that adjuster too. It's really slick. And stuff like the battery cover being really close to the pick rail to where it's actually somewhat difficult to manipulate this one-handed. Kind of issues like this, I think, could have been sorted out if they had more time testing this or giving this to the hands of people that actually had rifles. It's hard to see this when you're designing this in the factory versus using it in real life, right? Other than those minor gripes, the new body's great, and they weren't messing around at all for that mount. There's actually 2 cross bolts now on the side of the body to mount it to the Picatinny rail. And this thing is secure. I'll spend more time talking about the device body and its features when I get an actual production sample, but enough of that. Let's do some testing. We're gonna be testing the Zero with about 150 to 200 rounds and see how it holds. That round count may seem low, but if you've watched any of my previous videos on the XK68, another laser that SMSLaser made, I didn't need anything close to 200 rounds to show that the laser was wondering on those units. I think it's also important to note that I've had 3 XK68s, and all 3 of them had at least some type of Wondering Zero. The XK68 IR was worse than the other 2 XKs that I had, but they all still wondered. SMSLaser has been reassuring people online that this thing will hold absolute zero. And I don't know what that means yet, but we'll see what happens. So I just adjusted the HF's laser directly right to my EOTech center reticle. And I'll put a picture on the screen for you. Basically what we're doing with this setup is to show that if the laser moves at all in relation to the EOTech, then zero's not holding, right? The laser is directly right of my reticle. I will now turn off the EOTech and take shots at 30 yards using only the laser and see where they land. All right, just did 4 shots. So here we are at the target. I did 4 shots. I think I may have put 1 round through one of these holes. Not too bad. Definitely not a great grouping for, I think, 40 yards or 35 yards. But anyway, this proves that, it's all consistent, right? That the laser wasn't really jumping around all that much. A cool feature I just found out in the middle of the second magazine is if you hold the activation button or fire button for longer than a couple seconds, it turns into a momentary switch instead of just a constant on and constant off. So like if you press the button really quick, it either turns it on or off, but if you hold it for a couple seconds, the laser turns off. And I think that's pretty nice, especially if you're doing low ready drills like I was just doing. That's how I found out about it. I thought it was just a constant on-off switch, and it turns out that it is momentary if you just hold it for a little bit longer. Also, hopefully you'll be able to see this. We're sitting at, I think, about 10 yards from the target, and on max brightness, the laser is definitely visible. This is pretty nice. The HF now uses the crane plug, which is kind of a standard in the industry when it comes to tape switches. They got rid of that weird proprietary 2-prong like twist insert thing that they had. I'm glad it's gone. It wasn't that great to begin with. Going to the crane plug is definitely awesome because now you can use a bunch of aftermarket accessories with the HF, as well as, being able to source parts a lot easier if something breaks. So 60 rounds done, 2 mags. Looking down range with the EOTech on and the laser on, the laser has walked ever so slightly. I mean, we're talking, not that noticeable at 30 yards or so. And as you can see on the picture, I'll compare the two, rounds 0 versus round 60. It's definitely a lot better than any XK68 that I had before this. This is a very, averagely gassed 10-inch upper, but it does have a little bit of concussion on the end. And I think the HF is handling it just fine. The movement's a lot less than an XK68. And I think for this price bracket of like $200, right below a Sumo gear, I think that this is tolerable if you're going to be using this in a close quarters environment. If you're just shooting at the range, for night shots or anything like that. I think this, so far it's handling that situation pretty well. So there you have it, 120 rounds. I think the zero may have changed just a little bit more, judging by the picture that I took through the magnifier and the EOTech window. Looking forward to what the SMSLaser HF does out in the wild with the production units and what everyone thinks of it. Let's get those shots in. God knows everyone else is. This is round 0, so lower left of the target, which makes sense because the laser was to the right of the EOTech reticle. And this is at round 120. Same spot, the groups are in the same position, so that's great to hear. As I was getting ready to film my final thoughts, the 3D printed button for the fire selector, the rubber membrane, literally just fell off. It looks like it was held in with just like silicone or epoxy or something. Man, I cannot make this up. I'm not even sure how this is supposed to go back in. Let me take this off the rifle really quick and we can get a closer look. Yeah, but like looking at the fire or the activation switch, you can see the PCB directly underneath the alumalu body. The production body should be different, right? Hopefully it isn't just held in with rubber or, you know, epoxy, silicone, whatever on the production unit. This was just a sample that had a bad membrane. But yeah, now we can take a closer look at the mount with those two cross bolts instead of just one. We still have a locking lug in the middle, so that's great to see. And all in all, this is, I would say, about 90% of what the production unit's gonna look like. Yeah, you're not gonna have a charging little connector, the wireless charger. You're actually gonna have labels on everything. And now that we're taking a closer look at the unit, the co-alignment is relatively good. I tested it last night in my backyard, and about 10 yards, the lasers seemed like they were going in the same direction and weren't deviating at least too much, or anything that I could tell anyway. Can't really speak for 200 yards, 300 yards away. I don't really have a way to safely test that, but I think anything close quarters, the lasers are actually co-aligned, at least with this specific pre-production sample unit. Hey y'all, just a quick update. SMSLaser did get back to me after the range trip yesterday regarding the button membrane, and they let me know that the new membrane on the production units will be molded and will be made out of a new material. So hopefully you won't have the same issues that I did. Either way, I think this is a valiant effort. It shows that SMSLaser is going in the right direction, and I'm really excited to see the future products from them and wish them good luck with the HFXC and finally releasing it. Have a good day. Godspeed.
Pulling up just like a jogger. Had a chocolate tart in the coupe now. Came from the bottom, that's the roots. You ain't got no swag, got no juice. Sauce it up just like I'm a chef. Sauce it up just like I'm a chef, yeah. Sauce it up just like I'm a chef. Sauce it up just like I'm a chef, yeah.